Here's the way that they qualified yesterday on the streets of Exhibition Place with the Penske cars taking the front row. Points leader Kenny Breck starting on the inside of row 2. Paul Tracy will start right behind his teammate Dario Franchitti. We already mentioned Michael Andretti is back there in 13th place. But there's also a number of cars that are back at the back that ought to be very fast, including Pappas, Gidley, and Nakano.
Here are the critical numbers for the race. Top speed, 190 miles an hour at the end of this straightaway. But look all the way at the bottom. Fuel range, 36 to 40 laps. They only have to go 32 laps in order to make it a two-stop race. Hopefully fuel strategy won't be a concern today. Let's have a look at the track. Principal passing area, that's down into turn 1. We'll see a lot of action there on the start and maybe subsequent restarts. We've also seen passes at the end of that long back straightaway where the drivers break from 190 down to just over 40 miles an hour. We've seen bravery here in turn 5, but the corner that's given everyone trouble this weekend is turn number 8, where we've had a number of incidents.
Well, they're on the pace lap. The weather is absolutely beautiful. The crowd enormous as they come around looking for a green flag at the conclusion of this lap. And turn 1 here is always interesting. A left-hander, the flag lies just ahead. Front 2 rows looking pretty good, straggling at 3. And they wave it off. They wave the start off.
You can see Franchitti way back from Alex Tagliani there and then breaking up the rest of the field from 6th back. You can see the 2 team green cars were great. We'll have a look at it here. Look at the 2 team green cars. They're aligned. Kenny Breck, Tony Kanaan looking good. Alex Tagliani. But look at this space and how far back we can see Dario Franchitti and the rest of the field. Jim Swintel waves it off.
Now the front row, of course, is the Penske team with Elio Castroneves. They've been powerful on the streets this year. But overall, look at the career stats on the 3 drivers from Team Green. Laps led, races. They are a power to be reckoned with. So now the field will circulate behind Gil de Ferran as the pole sitter of the race and come around, and hopefully we'll be able to realign for a start next time around. One of the things we're going to be watching very carefully, Parker, is going to be the whole fuel game here. Enough laps under caution, you might be able to do this on one stop.
Well, I'm hoping it'll be a 2-stop, flat, foot to the floor, flat-out race, but we'll see. Team Penske once again lined up at the front. Those were the 2 pole sitters from the last 2 years. And now Dario's in position this time.
The field looks for the flag. Green flag is out. They're underway in the Molson Indy. Breck looks to the inside. De Ferran takes across the front. Castroneves is outside alongside Breck. Breck slots into 3rd place. Fastest part of the track here. Now a hard right-hander, heavy on the brakes. Several rows go too wide, and there's trouble. It looks like Dixon.
And Michael Andretti.
And Michael. So Michael Andretti's day goes from 13th to worse. Now does he have power?
We saw him in an off earlier this weekend where he stalled in a similar type of incident. It looks like he stalled the motor.
It's amazing. You get through the first term all right, and then you get in trouble back here.
And you can see Dixon just slid wide there. Michael had no place to go. Dixon using him as a barrier to stay on the track.
Here's Dad Mario Andretti just shaking his head. Michael fortunately got on the brakes hard enough to keep from getting the nose into the wall. And we are under full course caution because Michael is out on the course without power in a position they would prefer he not be. We'll be back. Well, they wave off the start, and then on the first lap of racing, Michael Andretti gets involved with Scott Dixon, and Michael heads right for the pits. Now he's on his way out to try and rejoin the field. Now, there were other things going on at the same time as Michael got in trouble. One of them involved Adrian Fernandez. Fortunately, we have an onboard with Adrian.
Coming up through the 3-4 complex. Watch what he does to Paul Tracy, this car there. Coming into turn 5, he says, well, I'll take it, but I'm not going to leave you any room at the exit. And watch when we look at this reverse angle of what happened here. He hangs Paul out to dry on the outside. There's no place to go. Paul narrowly avoids hitting the outside wall, but they do make contact right right rear to left front.
Yeah, nifty piece of driving, though, by both guys. Jan Bikas.
Michael Andretti did come into the pits for fuel. They checked the car over. It looks like it's A-OK.
So coming back to the green flag, here we go again. Gil de Ferran leading for the first time this year. He's the defending series champion. His teammate, Helio Castroneves, in second. Kenny Brecka's third. Franchitti with some good moves on the start, sitting in fourth now. Here comes Brian Herta as he battles with Jimmy Vasser. Oh, look at Oriol Servia move on Roberto Moreno. Tracy and Carpentier right behind. Then Tagliani.
Whoa!
Moreno's in trouble.
Oh! And we got Dixon involved and Vasser. Also looks like Cristiano Damata's involved.
In there, too. Well, that's sad for Dick. Dixon's going to get it going. New sponsor, NTN Bearings on that car. This looks a little more serious. They go full course once again. Full course caution. And I wonder the complexion of the race, how fast it may change to a one-stop event.
I'm not surprised to have seen that sort of commotion up in turn 5. A few years ago, I was in 6th place, came into that corner on the first lap, got rear-ended by Michael, had gotten rear-ended by Paul. It's a desperate place to try to make a move there. Watch what happens now coming down to turn 3. Oriol makes a very nice pass. Paul slots in behind Moreno. You see the players' cars behind him. They come up through turns 4 now to turn 5. And as they enter the corner, Moreno loses it. Tracy tucks by, splits everyone else. Dixon gets rear-ended by Michael, and then Cristiano stabs the side of Dixon.
So over in the Vistion Patrick Racing pits, they wait for Roberto Moreno to bring it back around. Another view of it, the way Bruno Junqueira saw it.
Left, right, left. There's some room.
Okay, I'll go there.
I'll just bump Scott's nose a little. And I think maybe I may have lost a couple places there, but I picked up 3 total, I think.
Yeah, Alex Zanardi came screaming down the inside. Then John Anderson, who takes care of both of the Team Green cars, involved in this crash. And the bad news of it is 2 of those cars, Vasser and Moreno, belong to the same owner, Pat Patrick. Jan Bikas.
You may have seen the last car through there, one of the last cars was Michael Andretti, who also went to driver's left, and it appeared as though he may have run over the front wing of Scott Dixon. He is called into the pits saying he's concerned about his right rear tire, so they're going to watch the pressures just to be sure.
And as you see the rest of the field come through, finally Moreno is, he's hoping he's under power. He's not under power yet. It looks like they're going to be able to get him rolling. Jimmy Vasser, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. They've got him on the hook. Under full course caution again. Our first Toyota Spotlight of the day takes a look at the man who wins the most when it comes to Toronto. 1991, it was Michael Andretti. His first victory here. Came back the next year. Grabbed off the top spot again. 94, change of livery, but still a victory. Again in 95. But 2000, once again, he hoists that trophy. Today, though, it's not nearly as pleasant. Contact very first lap with Scott Dixon. Now, he was able to get back into traffic, but there is a further report now, Parker, that as he went through that second accident, he may have damaged the nose. He seems concerned about it.
Well, we saw several cars, including Bruno Junqueira and Michael Andretti, go across the top of Scott Dixon's nose. The other concern is we may think that the pits were closed, but Cristiano Damata came in to top up during that yellow.
So still circulating under the full course caution. Jan Bikas, what about Michael? Did he come into the pits?
Yes, Paul, and I also have an update for you on Cristiano Damata, because certainly there was the question about him coming into the pits. Was it open or was it closed? It was closed. CART has now told Newman Haas that he has to go to the back of the pack. So he was at the back of the pack anyway, so really no harm, no foul. Gary?
As for Roberto Moreno, he made his way back to pit road. They had a new nose standing by, but they didn't have to make the change. Instead, they just put fresh rubber on the car. Appears to be no other structural damage that they could see, and they sent him on his way.
So we're ready to go back to the green flag once again. It looks as if everybody was able to get the repairs they needed. Gil de Ferran brings them down the line. Green flag is out. He screams for the first turn. Hard braking down into the right-hander. Oriol Servia takes a look to the inside. Alex Zanardi trying to move up. Now off the sweeper and on the long straight. Kenny Brack goes inside of Elio Castroneves. Castroneves gives him some room, but not enough. They touch coming off the corner. Still they continue on. There was a part that went there, though.
Yeah, it was a piece of the front wing end plate, it looked like. You notice Dario Franchitti slipped through on the maneuver. And now Tony Kanaan trying to take advantage of the loss of momentum from Castroneves.
Franchitti tucked in behind Kenny Brack. There comes Castroneves, then Tony Kanaan just behind him. That's Tagliani behind Kanaan. Of course, both Patrick Carpentier and Tagliani being Canadian, their sponsor Canadian as well. This is an incredibly important event for them. There's that fight for second place. And making a nice move to the inside is Fernandez. Nice move. Gary Gerold?
Jimmy Vasser back on pit road. I'm assuming this is just one of those things where a driver just hangs on and hopes, and this time it didn't work out so good, huh?
Yeah, it's just so tight in there, and something happened up the road.
Whoa, I've got to interrupt. We've got a problem over here, Gary.
Got another problem, Jimmy.
And it might be a course blocker as well. You got Tracy and Servia. They were battling for 8th place going into the right-hander at the end of the straightaway. Everybody else looks like they got by unscathed. But both of them are stopped. Kart safety team comes out to try to get them both going. And they go full course caution again. Gary, I apologize for the interruption.
Well,
let's get from Jimmy, and then we'll try to get back to this if we could, please.
Jimmy, you were telling us about what happened from your seat.
Gary, I don't know. I tried to make it around the outside. I saw Roberto sideways in the track. Don't know how he got there like that. And then just didn't make it through. I think Dixon spun, and it's one of those things, really. It's kind of unfortunate, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
All right.
Paul?
Now, Paul Tracy in a desperate drive trying to make it to the front, Parker.
Watch, you can see Carpentier taking the inside. Servia follows him down under braking contact between Tracy and Servia. Everyone else ducking. You see Christian Fittipaldi choosing the outside. Everybody else the other way. This is from Adrian Fernandez now. That's Carpentier taking the the inside line, protecting it from Servia. Tracy getting into the back of Servia.
We'll go back to Jan Vikas.
Paul, you asked earlier about the nose on Michael Andretti's car. He came in, did not change it. Not the case now for Cristiano D'Amata. They are changing the front nose here on this Lola chassis. Obviously, all they have to do is complete it before the pace car comes back around, and they do so easily.
You gotta pack up. You gotta pack up. Go to map and pack up as quick as you can.
Interesting radio conversations before that last restart. The crew told Tracy to be careful of Servia. Here's the move of Kenny Brack around Castroneves. At the beginning of that last restart, you can see Dario taking advantage of the piece of wing coming off the front of Castroneves' car.
And no idea exactly what that was. Gary Gerold, you have an idea?
No, we're wondering about the contact and if there was damage to the front wing, and the team tells us that they think, and what they're hearing from Elio in the car, is that everything is all right. At this point, there is no intent on bringing him to pit road. Let's go to Jan.
Well, the other side of the story with Kenny Brack had a chance to speak with the Shell team, and I asked, did that piece that we saw, did that come off your car, or did that come off Castroneves? We don't know. We'll find out at the first pit stop.
Well, so we have had the first 10 laps punctuated with full course caution. Gil de Ferran, Kenny Brack, Dario Franchitti, the top three. It's Honda, Ford, Honda at the front of the field, but it's already become a fairly expensive day. We'll be back. they've just taken the green flag again in the Molson Indy. Gil de Ferran has led from the pole, the first laps that he's led this year. And of the laps we've run, 8 of them have been under full course caution. Look at this neat little move on Fernandez. Carpentier almost didn't get it off the corner. Tagliani almost didn't get it off the corner. Apologize for that. Watching Kenny Breck now, second place. But back from de Ferran. Then Franchitti, Castroneves, Tony Kanaan. Then Tagliani after that move. Now sits in 6th place. What makes this kind of interesting is back at the back of the field, Tracy and Servia were in the situation earlier. And now the chief steward, Chris Neifel, it's being reported, has warned the team to warn Paul Tracy, you've already had 2 strikes against you, and another incident on the course, you could be in big trouble. There they are back at the back of the field. Just go back as far as Milwaukee and Toro Takagi. You know that Neifel will enforce such a warning.
Paul Tracy came out of the pits just as Servia was coming down through start-finish. Servia turning across his bow under yellow, and then the two of them had a little bit of a sign language conversation going down the back straightaway prior to that last restart. You know, and you can't say it with flowers, Paul.
I've heard that.
Yep. It's the next best thing.
Also get your wrist broken doing that. Carpentier chasing Fernandez. Here comes Herta, Fittipaldi. De Ferran still at the front. Running about 102 miles an hour. Looking back from Fernandez now at Patrick Carpentier. Time to time you get a glimpse of Brian Herta behind Carpentier as well.
Herta's made a nice move up through the field, starting in 15th, currently running 9th.
Fittipaldi back there now closing in on Brian Herta. Beginning to start a fight for 9th. You're on the pit straight. Right-hander ahead at the Prince's Gate.
Downhill, off camber, you can see the surface changes there from asphalt to concrete, back to asphalt. Very bumpy. A lot of the times people think the drivers are driving defensively, going from side to side down this long straightaway. In fact, they're just looking for the smoothest bit of asphalt so they can run the cars as low as possible, trying to avoid the bumps.
Looked like Fittipaldi might have been looking for the inside. Looking back up toward the front. Here's Kanaan. Alex Zanardi, who started 24th, now up to 14th, and Michael has cut his way through to 15th. There's Kanaan, who's been very fast this weekend. Today's production, by the way, coming to you from our friends at Molstar of Canada. There's Fittipaldi still chasing Brian Herta, so he wasn't able to get around him. And the front of the field, for the most part, has gone single file. The real game here now becomes making the fuel go as far as it can, so if possible, you can only stop once, certainly no more than twice, and manage those tires, which is very tough on this particular circuit because of the changing surface. There's Michael Andretti, currently 15th and cutting through the field. Jan Bikas.
Speaking about Christian Fittipaldi, you've mentioned him a few times. Keep in mind that he has Toyota power, and this is a race where you would think that Toyota might be at a slight disadvantage because of the technical changes. These pop-off valves have gone back to the same configuration that we had before Detroit. Now, the word up and down pit road is this may be the last race that is the case. They may return to a different configuration before we get to our next race in Michigan.
Yeah, Parker, let's in fact talk about that for just a minute, because when we last left the racing 2 weeks ago, the appeals court of CART was getting ready to hear an appeal of the penalties that were assigned at, or not penalties assigned, but the change in the pop-off valve. Kenny Brack, he's battling with Franchitti, and Franchitti grabs second. So Franchitti now to second to chase de Ferran. Franchitti said last night that he thought his car was about 0.2 faster than he was able to show in qualifying. Maybe he speaks properly there. Anyhow, the valve.
Let's talk about racing rather than the politics. Let's look at the pass first. He sets Kenny up coming down the long back straightaway. At the last minute, pops out. Very clean pass. You can see he leaves Kenny plenty of room on the outside. Nice and tidy. Well executed. Dario obviously loving this place. He's been on the pole twice in 97 and 98. First pole coming with Hogan Racing in 97. Suits his driving style very, very well.
Gil de Ferran, the leader. Second place is Franchitti. Parker, you want to finish up on what they've done with the valve?
Well, what happened? There we've got a pass between Tagliani and Tony Kanaan. That was for fifth place. A lot of action going down the back straightaway here. So what they've done is they've gone back to removing the spacer that they instituted earlier. The concern for Honda and Ford is that Toyota had worked with CART in development of that spacer. Honda and Ford didn't have a concern about CART's changing the rules, but just rather the timing. They just wanted more notification before the rules change occurred. In the appeal, they won their case. There was a temporary stay of the use of that spacer. So here we are back to the original configuration that we started the season with. But now, as Jan said, rumor has it that we'll be back at Michigan for the rest of the season with that spacer. For the Honda and the Ford teams, they've been very quick, dominating the top 10 all weekend long. Really didn't need the horsepower here. They'd rather have it at Michigan. Here you simply need a car that comes off the corners well, is good under braking, and very consistent during the course of the fuel run.
And the run at Michigan now 1 week from now. Maybe the last time that the CART FedEx Championship Series will run there. So it is a race not to be missed. It's always a race not to be missed, always running side by side. There's the top of the field. The fans are loving it here at the Molson Indy. Well, nothing has changed since we left you. Standings remain the same, with de Ferran leading. Franchitti with his move around Breck just a few laps ago put him into second place. Castroneves stuttered for a second there, and Breck got around him. Castroneves sits back in fourth place now, followed by Tagliani, Kanaan, Fernandez, Carpentier, Brian Herta, and Christian Fittipaldi. Crossing over the 24th lap. for the leader. De Ferran leading from the start and leading the first laps he's led all year, and the first laps that he has led here in Toronto. We're going to keep a close eye on Dario Franchitti now, Parker, because from the course there have been some reports that he may be smoking.
That's not good for a Honda engine. We've seen the Toyotas oftentimes smoke, but that's because they run a lot of extra oil in those engines. We're not seeing anything here. And if we're looking at the lap times, we're not seeing any problem with his speed around the course. You don't know, sometimes if they bottom it just the right,
the
right
place,
too. The jab rock will give out a little bit of sawdust as the cars go over those bumps. Sometimes it'll catch the turn workers out a little bit. They'll think it's engine smoke when in fact it's just a result of bottoming.
So with 25 now complete, we're going to take you back and put you on board with Bruno Junqueira. He runs currently 21st. Just ahead of him is Scott Dixon.
And watch how bumpy this circuit is as he makes the transitions from asphalt onto the concrete, back to the asphalt. This is the S section leading onto the pit straightaway. They come through about 100 miles an hour. Upshift to fifth gear. 170 miles an hour under braking here. 3.5 G's of braking force. Off camber, downhill. Onto the long straightaway. Up to top gear here. 190 miles an hour, braking all the way down to 40 at the end of the straightaway. Steep uphill section, very slick here across the concrete. Short shift on the brakes for turn 5, where we saw the earlier action with Moreno. Across the pad, now the carousel corner, about 80 miles an hour through here. Long sweeping blind right-hander. Keep in mind from the driver's perspective, while we can see around the corners, they're down below the top of the concrete walls.
And there's the pit straight, the start-finish line once again. Now, Franchitti, there was the report of smoking. Jan Bikas, what do you think?
Well, we don't want a smoking cool car, do we? But I did check with Kyle Moyer, and he said that he thinks that maybe behind the pace car, they picked up a little bit of an oil leak. It seems like now that they get back up to speed, they don't see the smoke. They don't seem very concerned down here in this team.
Max Wilson, Shinji Nakano. They had a little confrontation during qualifying. They both might have qualified much higher. It was devastating to Max Wilson because he had a brand new Ford engine. The first time this year he's had that. But it was in the car that he was trying to qualify, and it took that car out of the action. He had to go to the backup car.
Max Wilson very quick during the course of the weekend. Shinji Nakano, top of the time charts yesterday morning. And the two of them, as you said, came to grief back in turn 8. Now they're fighting for 16th, 17th position.
Tagliani took a look inside of Elio Castroneves there. Decided to think better of it. Penske team running first and fourth right now. Gary?
On the radio for the race leader, Gil de Ferran, leading his first laps of this championship season. Very little conversation, only Roger Penske giving him de Ferran the interval on each lap and occasionally saying, good job. As for Castroneves in fourth place, after that earlier contact with Kenny Breck, they didn't suspect any damage. Now reported that there was a slight bit of damage on one of the side pods. Apparently lost what they term a shutter. Tim Cindric says it's of little consequence. They don't think it's impacting the handling of that car whatsoever.
Well, and as you were speaking, we were watching Elio Castroneves and saw the back end come fairly loose. And as we look now, keeping in mind that Firestone has supplied a fairly soft tire for the run here today, beginning to see some buildup of rubber at the edge of the course.
A lot of marbles on the outside. This is the softest tire they have. We saw this last time at Cleveland. We saw a lot of tire buildup on the outside, a lot of marbling. These drivers now finally getting a long run after all those early yellows. We expect them to come into the pits in about 10 laps or so. So this is when the balance of the cars will start to change, start to go off, but now the passing will become more difficult with those marbles offline.
with the first of the first 10, 8 laps were run under full course caution. And of course, if they could get to 47, 48 laps without a stop, that would be a one-stop race. But it doesn't seem real likely right now.
Well, from the radio conversations, it sounds like they're still targeting 1.85, 1.9. So I think most of the top teams, anyway, the top 2/3 of the teams are looking to do this in 2 stops.
Gil de Ferran has led from the pole all the way to this point in the run at the exhibition place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, right on the edge of the lake. A beautiful day and a giant crowd. Welcome back live to the Molson Indy. Gil de Ferran has led right from the start here. I'm Paul Pate, Parker Johnstone, Gary Gerald, Jan Beekes are pit side, and anticipating pit stops coming up a few laps. The question will be who will stop when and who will try and gamble and carry it a little further. Nothing's changed since we left you.
Gil de Ferran at the front has been pulling out 2 to 3 tenths of a second. Ever since the green flag came out, he's now almost 6 seconds ahead of Dario Franchitti. A lot of the drivers radioing in, though, that their balance of the cars are changing. They're going to need wing changes, tire pressure changes. So obviously the soft Firestone compound is starting to create a problem as these drivers are trying to negotiate this tight street circuit while putting 900 horsepower to the ground.
Parker, we just checked in with one of the Firestone engineers on the current track temperatures, 119 degrees on the racing surface at the last report.
All of the drivers, it seems, were concerned about tire management before the race. They knew the compound was soft. They knew the temperatures were probably going to be high and the driving tough.
Well, years ago when you had Goodyear and Firestone fighting it out and the tires were very, very soft to get that one ultimate lap, tire conservation was a big part of driving. You had to be very, very careful with every throttle application. Firestone has been building very consistent tires for the last several years without any competitors in the series. But here, as everyone's still looking for maximum grip, one of the cool cars, and it's a secret.
Yeah, that one we don't know about. Drop the umbrella.
It's Dario Franchitti. He's had an engine problem.
Dario Franchitti, who is running in second, and at the same time, Takagi in trouble, and there's Max Wilson. Max Wilson in trouble, too. From the look of the left front, it's terminal.
That's a little more toe out than you normally want to run on a street course. You can only imagine that the two of them got together on the way down into turn 3.
Boy, for Wilson, we're going to go yellow flag in this area. As yet, they haven't displayed a full course caution at the start-finish line, but you would guess they might have to. And yes, now they display full course caution, and the pits are open. So now we'll see who wants to come early. Most of the crews have begun laying out equipment for this stop. Franchitti's car, they're just trying to cool down the back end. And here come the leaders, Gary Gerald.
In the very first pit box opening, Gil de Ferran getting his first service of the day. Roger Penske on the wall, overseeing the action. Everything looking routine at this point, just waiting for that single probe fueling to be complete. It is complete. He's gone before anybody else gets into the pits. Let's go to Jan. Here's Castro Neves coming in.
Gary, that was amazing. Now Kenny Breck hits his marks. Gil de Ferran had such a big lead that everyone got into the pits after Gil de Ferran had left. Looking from Rico Knox's view in the front, they took a lot of wing out of the front of this car. 10.8, here comes Castro Neves.
Castro Neves came out right behind Kenny Breck, and look at him crowding as they head down toward their acceleration point. Oh, it's real crowded down there at the exit. Everybody got through, no problem. Tagliani leads the group out.
What a great stop by the Players team, getting tag out in front of Breck and Castro Neves.
What's happening back there, though, a little further?
Also on that pit in, Kenny Breck with a nice snap oversteer entry into the pit box. Absolutely brilliant.
So as the Simple Green safety team waves everybody around Takagi, it looks like they may have gotten Wilson going again, or at least pulled him back so they can get him out of the way. Back at the Molson Indy, Gil de Ferran is still the leader after the stops, but of course, with Franchitti getting in trouble, it put Tagliani into second place, followed by Breck and Castro Neves. Here's what happened that brought out the full course caution.
Tora Takagi crowds Max Wilson on the way into turn 3. You got to give a guy some racing room. You just can't plow into him and expect him to turn and use him as your girlfriend on the way into the corner. And that's just what happened.
Of course, the damage already done to Wilson's car. Dario Franchitti out, something in the engine room. And Gary Gerald, they are really now concerned about tires.
Well, it's interesting because we were hearing the reports from drivers that they felt that their rears were gone, that they had used the maximum efficiency. But it's also interesting to look at the amount of rubber buildup early in the race. These came off the front of Helio Castro Neves' car, and you can see with the shadows here just how much this is built up. But then maybe Parker could address this. It's very possible that in avoiding the incident, they got off the racing line, and maybe that's why we're seeing so much buildup. But for early in the race, I'm surprised to see that much there.
Well, in fact, Gary, as soon as they slow down for the full course yellow, these tires will start to pick up the rubber off the road, and in fact, going around an incident will also cause that to happen. The biggest problem is that if you have to slow down and then restart on those tires, it can take 2, 3, even 4 laps to get back to your tires as opposed to racing on the discards of others.
Looking down on the circuit, still under a full course caution, the view from the Honda Helicam high over the exhibition place here in the edge of Lake Ontario. Beautiful marina here. Now, here's the pit summary on the stops that began at lap 32, freezing it in time there, and the changes they made with Tagliani. Of course, Tagliani affected not just by the stop, but also by the failure of Dario Franchitti's engine.
But great stop by team players, and that stop by moving up 2, of course, shoved everyone else down. Look at Dixon and Junqueira. They came in last time on lap 9. They didn't pit that time, trying to go with the off strategy.
Tony Kanaan currently running an 8. Seemed to have had a bit of a problem on his stop and didn't fare nearly as well. So under the full course caution once again, field circulates, de Ferran at the front of the field. On board there with Mauricio Guzman. Currently 13. The field, of course, all will bottle up now. And what lead de Ferran was able to pull out ahead of the stops has all but gone away. Tagliani will start with his nose right up the tail of de Ferran's car.
What you're hearing aboard Mauricio's car is he'll do a series of burnouts before we go back green, trying to get heat into those rear tires. Right on cue. Thanks, Mauricio. What they're trying to do is not only get heat in the tires, but make sure they don't pick up any of the pickup offline. He'll be scrubbing the front tires from side to side, dragging the brakes with his left foot to get heat into the brakes. The whole time, trying to conserve fuel to get as far as possible on this yellow flag lap.
Thus far, 5 full course cautions for 12 laps. Here was Tora Takagi.
Okay, I'm going to try Max on the outside. Whoa, man.
What about the braking part?
Well, yeah. That's something you want to do when you're trying to slow down from 190 to 40.
Whoa.
You just try to use your 4, not someone else's 4.
Well, you know, if I can't use my own brakes, I'll use the brakes of the guy in front of me.
That was an interesting maneuver.
Oh. So 37 laps complete. We're ready to go green once again. Pace car is off the course. If you're going to do it, you try to do it on these restarts. Helio Castroneves tried. Kanaan moved to the inside, but for no apparent reason. He just likes that line a little better.
Roberto Moreno, second in your pictures, actually a lap down in 20th position. And they're in order with Tagliani, Breck, Castroneves.
A little dart and weave out of Kenny Breck there. With Fernandez currently fifth, Castroneves ahead.
Adrian Fernandez won his first kart race back on the streets of Toronto in 1996. Very emotional victory. It was interesting when Sinji had his problem the other day of him consoling him not only as a teammate but also as an owner. Interesting position to be in, driving and owning the team.
Castroneves is working hard on Kenny Breck. He stays in line coming through here, but he keeps darting right and left. Kenny is certainly aware that he's there.
Kenny Breck surrounded by Renards in front and just behind him, and here comes Castroneves.
Castroneves, very clean move. Kenny Breck helps him out. Sportsmanlike conduct out of both. They know that turn is tough, and Helio Castroneves moves to third. Cease to be amazed at how unhurried they appear in the cockpit despite the speeds they're traveling. So Jan Beekes, Dario Franchitti out. What happened?
Well, Paul, remember we talked about that smoke earlier in the race, and I talked to Kyle Moyer. They thought maybe they had an oil leak. Well, it turned out it was more than that. And I think, Parker, you had even mentioned that sometimes you see some smoke early in the race, it spells doom for the engine, and that, in fact, was the case.
Well, Franchitti had hoped for a much better day. He's actually been in great spirits all weekend. Last evening, laughing about the starting position, laughing about conversations with he and his teammate Paul Tracy. I asked him, what you and Paul, since you're starting one behind the other, what kind of conversations do you have for the start? He says, that one's real easy. Paul just says, I'm going to the front.
And Dario said what, he was ducking? Or And here Dario Franchitti brings himself up into third in the championship after his victory last race in Cleveland. Once again, that top 10 in the championship that has changed with every race looks like it'll change again at the end of today.
Look at Adrian Fernandez here. Works on Kenny Breck, comes to the inside of him, and he gets around him. Boy, that one was close, though.
And that's not just a look inside. That's, I'm coming through, and if you decide to turn, we will have a big accident. I mean, for Kenny Breck, you really have no choice if you don't block the entry. If you take a normal racing line, when someone dive bombs you like that, the only choice you have is to let them through or be part of the accident.
But is there something going on with Kenny Breck? 2 passes in 2 laps like that. This group is Junqueira, Carpentier, Tony Kanaan, then Herta, Fittipaldi, Andretti. Here's that pass again. There I come.
Wow, that was close.
So de Ferran, Tagliani, Castroneves, and now Fernandez, the top 4. Parker and I were just wondering if we'd gotten away from the full course cautions for the day, and all of a sudden the flag showing in every corner station again. This time it involved Tora Takagi and Oriol Servia.
Well, this is heading down into turn 3, and another fine example of how not to use the brakes on a Champ Car race. Tora Takagi punts Oriol Servia. Now watch from the onboard from Tora. They turn into the corner, and Tora says, I'll just be hitting you now, and I've gained another spot the hard way.
It's amazing that Takagi could continue on after that. after the smack with the wall, there's massive damage on Servia's car.
You would think there'd be damage to the left front of Tora's car. Now watch on the turn-in. Oriol's a little bit wide as he was trying to avoid the car in front of him on the initial turn-in, trying to gain some room. But Tora comes in with just a huge head of steam, gets Oriol way up in the air. Looks like a Joey Chitwood Saturday afternoon event. Heavy damage to the left side of the Sigma Autosports car.
Kenny Breck, we wondered whether or not he might be having some problems, passed twice in 2 laps. Gary Gerald, any news there?
Well, on the radio, he's saying that he just can't put the car where he wants to. Seems to be understeering big time, and that's happened, of course, after he got a fresh set of tires. So they have to wait until the next pit stop to make a wing adjustment and try to improve the handling characteristics. But it seems that Kenny's got a handful here in Canada this afternoon.
And if the car's got a big understeer, that's one of the reasons Adrian was able to set him up so well coming off the last corner.
Do you think you can race these guys in front of you?
I don't know. I doubt it.
That's pretty discouraging.
We can try, but we don't want to screw ourselves up.
Well, Kenny Breck, the points leader coming into this race, now obviously frustrated and in trouble at the Molson Indy. He runs in 5th place right now. Gil de Ferran, the pole sitter, has led right from the green flag in a race that has now been punctuated with 6 different full course cautions for a total of 15 laps. In second is Tagliani. Castroneves is third. Fernandez is fourth. Dario Franchitti had an engine problem and has already retired. Michael Andretti, who started 13th, fell all the way back because of an incident in the opening laps and has slowly worked his way back up to 11th place. So under the full course caution, they continue to circle around. Roberto Moreno comes to the pits out of 20th place.
And as I was saying earlier, the problem that Kenny Breck has is that if you have a big understeer
trouble on the right front, they want to go back up with that car.
Coming off the corner, that means he can't get the throttle on since the car's not steering the way he wants to. That means that the other drivers can apply the throttle sooner. They've got more speed coming off the corners. They can set up for the pass not only down the straightaways but into braking, and that's exactly what Adrian Fernandez did on that last pass.
And Paul, we see quite a few cars on pit road, but surprisingly, the 2 cars we did not see pit were Bruno Junqueira and Scott Dixon, were the cars who did not pit on the previous yellow. So we expected maybe being out of sequence they would take advantage of this. So maybe some clever strategy for Pac West and for the Ganassi teams.
Wow, a interesting scenario being played there between both Dixon and Junqueira. Well, it'll be under the full course caution, but lap 45, de Ferran has now led 1,000 laps in his kart career. He's in 15th place on the all-time list. Now less than 25 behind the great Johnny Rutherford. De Ferran probably feeling great behind the wheel for the first time this year, having failed to lead a lap. He's not won a race in over a year now, but still remains the defending series champion. Pace car should be heading for the pits at the end of this lap, with a very anxious Tagliani right behind de Ferran. They will head back toward the green flag. Green flag is out.
De Ferran gets a nice jump. Tagliani's been very, very good on the restarts. Look at Castroneves.
Carpentier.
And there's Carpentier inside Junqueira.
Carpentier smoothly around Bruno Junqueira. So he picks up 7th.
Heading down into turn 3 is where we've seen a lot of action today. Kanan looking around the outside of Junqueira. Tagliani actually has a spotter down here, just like you would on an oval, to try to keep him away from contact.
Oh, Tagliani, as they went through the corner, looks like there might have been a tap there. Kanan around Junqueira.
We saw Michael and Herta side by side coming up through turn 3.
De Ferran slowly pulls away now from Tagliani. And it looks between Tagliani and Castroneves, everything is in fact okay. And Michael steadily coming forward.
That fight was for 10th place between Michael Andretti and Brian Herta. Great run back up through the field by Michael Andretti.
You saw the summary of the last pit stops. approaching the theoretical halfway at the 47th and a half lap. Everybody's working on Junqueira. Look at this. Michael's going to try to split him along with Brian Herta.
That's the move that he tried last time but couldn't make stick. This time he's got a great inside shot going up into turn 5.
Well, when we asked the question with Kenny Breck, found out that his car just wasn't handling well. We heard that on the radio. Now you have to ask what's going on with Junqueira.
Well, it's got to be the same thing, Paul. Remember that he and Scott Dixon now haven't pitted in a very long time. If other drivers are complaining of tire problems, you would think that he also is having a tire problem.
Down the pit straight again with Junqueira. Tight turn 1, right-hander ahead. Junqueira is good there, so the next key turn is turn 3.
But look at the run that Brian Herta has here. Watch Brian draft up behind him. Remember, this is Ford power versus Toyota power. Here he comes, bringing Michael with him.
And they both choose the outside.
Well, I think that was the
place. And they both get past. Christian Fittipaldi's going to try it too. Won't work for Fittipaldi, but it worked for Andretti and Herta.
I don't know if they chose it, if that was all that was available. Bruno driving as defensively as he can, but I think he's just run into tire problems.
Dario Franchitti out. Jan Bikas, you're with him?
Yes, he's enjoying watching this battle as well. I know you'd like to be out there with them. How were the track conditions before you ran into engine trouble?
It was pretty slick out there. We were giving the tires a pretty hard time, and we're working them hard, so it was difficult.
You had a little trouble in the warm-up with an oil leak. Was that related to what happened in the race?
Yeah, we think it was the same thing. It was an oil leak for sure. The car was losing oil the whole race. The oil pressure was dropping, I guess, as the oil was getting less and less in the tank. Eventually, the thing just ran out of oil and seized solid out the back there, which was a real shame because, the car was pretty good today.
Who's the guy to beat out there right now?
Gilles looking very good. We were going to make some changes in the pit stop that allowed us to get a bit closer to Gilles, but apart from that, I don't think anybody else has got anything for him because he's driving very well.
All right, Dario, we'll see you in Michigan.
See you there. Thanks.
Well, we got trouble again. This time it's Takagi and Moreno. Same place, too.
Well, this time Tor is done. Look at the left front. It is definitely damaged. So finally, I think he's being put out of his and everyone else's misery. Moreno keeps it running. He's off.
So now Takagi is kind of waving like he wants him to move the car. That car is not going anywhere except on the hook. And Jim McGee, who manages for, well, here it is again.
Another skewer job. And it looks like he got Tracy on the way by as well.
So if I was Tor, I'd just kind of head for the airport. I don't think I'd stop and say hi to any of the other drivers today. De Ferran is still leading. It's Honda at the front of the field. De Ferran, Tagliani, Castroneves. This could be a big day for Tagliani. We'll be back with more after this.
Back in the pits, Gil de Ferran taking advantage as they open the pits to come in for a stop. He got his service and got out of here quickly. A lot of other teams are taking advantage as well, but the race leader is making a bit of a gamble here because we've got, 45 laps to go, and with the help of some yellow, he could have enough to go the rest of the way. Jan?
Bruno Junqueira lights it up, and he's out of here, as well as Mimo Gidley and Roberto Moreno. Mauricio Guzman, the other key person who stopped, of course, was one of the players' cars, which I assume was Tagliani.
Coming out at the back of that line is Gidley. We're still under the full course caution. Gidley, who had such an excellent weekend 2 weeks ago at Cleveland, on the podium, second place, but he couldn't convert that into much this weekend.
But what an amazing story for this young man. Born on a sailboat off the coast of Mexico, lives out of the back of his pickup truck, go-kart raced his entire life with great success.
But it's also true of a number of other drivers in the field, the absolute passion and focus for driving. Castroneves is the leader. He'll bring the field back to the green flag. He didn't stop. Fernandez is second, followed by Breck and Dixon. Breck's trying to work on Fernandez. Here comes Carpentier, and
that's going to leave it work.
You're not going to get that one done. Try to get back in traffic, but that wing's in trouble.
Well, you sure don't want that to come off at speed coming down here. Max Pappas directly behind, trying to get by on the outside now, and he does. Cristiano D'Amato lining up with Paul Tracy.
Well, they get through cleanly there.
Okay. Rear wing is probably broken. So
Looks like the wheel's a tent, but look what the end plate might be doing to that right rear.
Could be doing the cookie cutter number on the right rear tire. He'll definitely be in. There's no way he'll stay out with this.
Got damage to the right front wing as well. Boy, that's a pretty expensive set of brakes there.
let's go ahead and fill it up. Put 4 tires on it.
The good news here, though, is it's both of those, the nose and the rear wing, something that you can change pretty quick.
Yeah, but that'll put him out of contention for sure. There's no way he'll be 2 laps down by the time they get these repairs done. It's too bad Carpentier was having such a good run this weekend.
Significant damage, certainly, for the rear wing. We're looking for more damage. The team is looking like this may be the end.
A lot of pressure on both Carpentier and Tagliani being in their homeland of Canada this weekend. Their sponsor, a Canadian sponsor. We'll go back and look. You saw Michael Andretti working heavily on Kanan's, got him up to 5th place. Here's Carpentier from overhead. Classic loose, back in goes. There was nothing he could do about it.
Just out brakes Dixon to the inside. Back in, steps out under braking. And unlike Cleveland, where that would have just been a simple spin, maybe off into the grass and right back on, damage to the front and back of the car.
Well, obviously they haven't totally given up. They're going to try to get the rear wing off. They have another one ready to attack.
Yeah, it's going to take a while, Paul, but obviously it's not going to be for the result. It's going to be just for a bit of extra testing and for their sponsors, obviously. As Parker said, big event for players here.
Boy, Michael Andretti is just working his way forward around Dixon for 4th. Dixon now having to do warfare with Kanan. But Michael, he's on a tear. You know, and that's pretty much what he told us last night. He just said, you know, I'm going to just steadily work my way up, and at the end I need to be near the front. Looking at the pit stop that started lap 49, many of them did not stop. The key here is de Ferran and Tagliani. It set them way back, but it may have put them in an overall key position for the end of the race. Well, only time will tell there. Gary Gerald.
Get a word with Tim Cindrix with Helio Castroneves. You've taken obviously a different strategy than Gil de Ferran. Tell us the decision.
We're just trying to do this in one more stop and hope it stays green the rest of the way. If it stays green the rest of the way, we should be able to do it one more stop, and these other guys might not be able to. So we'll see what happens.
Including de Ferran, who came in, well, I think he's got 45 to go on this tank, but obviously Roger gave up track position thinking maybe he can do it.
We'll see. I guess that's why we're here.
Oh, little interesting here. Split strategy in Camp Penske.
Yeah, Tim Cindric runs the de Ferran car. Castroneves, I mean, they split that team right down the middle and battle one another as well as everyone else on the track. You saw a nifty bit of driving by Alex Zanardi as they went into 3 last time around. Yeah, to make sure that's right, Castroneves is run by Tim Cindric and de Ferran is run by Roger Penske. And they're still working at the back end of the car there of Patrick Carpentier, but obviously he's fallen well behind the ring. ESPN's coverage of the Molson Indy is being brought to you by brand name tires, oil changes, and more at your neighborhood Walmart, Tire, and Lube Express. Well, back at the Molson Indy, don't forget that there'll be plenty of coverage of all of the racing of the weekend on RPM tonight. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Now, Michael Andretti charging through this field, started 13th, fell all the way to the back, and the shades of Franchitti 2 weeks ago at Cleveland. Worked on Tony Kanaan and got around Tony Kanaan.
Well, we've seen how not to do this pass all day long, but this is how one of the series veterans does it correctly with the help of a very experienced, mature 20-year-old. That's how you do it the right way.
Now, Scott Dixon, after giving up to Andretti, and then Kanaan got around him, but he came into the pits, and Dixon carried the car 46 laps without a stop. They have radioed to Alex Tagliani, who stopped at the same time as Gil de Ferran, to go to full lean, try to carry it to the end. That's certainly what the Penske team is thinking about doing. One of the disappointed men at the sidelines is Patrick Carpentier, Jan.
Yes, he has since climbed from the car. I know they were trying to fix it, but just a case of getting a bit too much speed into turn one.
Yeah, you know, I was making all my passes going in turn one, and I was moving up forward. Team players gave me a great car, and I guess I tried a bit too hard. Went in a little bit deep and locked the rear wheels and went sideways. I thought I was going to clear, but didn't clear it.
How did the track conditions improve? Because they blew some of it off to get the rubber. Did that help?
Yeah, actually the track is improving as we're running, and it's helping us for front traction. I don't know if it was the question, I cannot hear, but the track is getting better and better. So
I know a disappointing day for you, but it's nice at least when you have a bad day, but you had speed prior.
Exactly. We've been looking for speed, and we got it now. So when we're going to finish, hey, we're going to win one race. It's not today, but it's going to happen.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Now, Patrick Carpentier, along with Kenny Breck, they made the debut of their new band, RPM, consisting of all kart folks last Friday night over at Gretzky's place in downtown Toronto. Big party with all the VIPs from kart involved. Castroneves, he is being chased, though not closely, almost 5 seconds back by Adrian Fernandez. And here's the way the game is going to be played. As we watch for Fernandez, we'll watch for Kenny Breck, who is next. All of these cars certainly have to stop again, all the way through the field down to 12th. And then beginning, actually 11th, 12th, beginning with Tagliani, De Ferran, Junqueira, Gugelmin, Gidley, might, and only might be able to get to the end.
And then you look at Scott Dixon, who's got 6 laps more or less, if you will, than anyone else on the field. He went 46 laps the last time. How far can he go this time? Remember, it was brilliant pit strategy that won him his first race earlier in the year at Nazareth. It's going to be an interesting game.
Now, we shouldn't forget Senji Nakano. He's in the same sort of situation where he might make the end as well. But Dixon, though, did a number of his laps under the yellow. Alex Tagliani, he's back in that group. 12th right now.
He's part of that group that you talked about, Paul, as far as who was going to pit and who wasn't. The radio communications to Alex at the moment are save as much fuel as possible. And, of course, if that's the radio communication, you would assume he should be good to the end, or at least that's what they're hoping for.
Well, just when you thought they could easily do this race in 2 stops with no concerns for a 1-stop race with the number of yellows we had in the beginning, the fuel strategy has come in once again.
De Ferran working on Tagliani. Tagliani got in great position, was ahead of De Ferran. He's the leader of this second group, as we mentioned a while ago, that are really now only 12 laps out from their stop. Dixon's only 6 out, and Kenny Breck's in trouble.
Points, championship points leader, once again.
Smoke inside the car and he stops, okay?
10-4.
Long and difficult day for Kenny Breck.
Once again, we'll see a scrambling of the top 10 in the championship points order. It's the championship nobody wants to dominate. No one wants to lead, but look at this man, Michael Andretti, now up to 3rd place.
And with Breck's pulling out, it's Andretti in 3rd. Ahead of him is Fernandez. Castroneves is the leader. I guess Dave's going to have to take it back right now. You can't just hand him the cup now, right? Letterman's been saying that at every show. Just give him the cup. Well, it's going to be a harder fight than that.
Elio, pit this lap, pit this lap. ESPN's coverage of the Molson Indy is being brought to you by brand name tires, oil changes, and more at your neighborhood Walmart, Tire, and Lube Express.
He was the race leader. Helio Castroneves has just come to the pits. He's been serviced in 11.6 seconds. He is gone with fresh rubber and a full 35 gallons of methanol.
Helio Castroneves, the only one on the pit road right now as he crawls out under the speed limit and finally makes the end of the pits where he can accelerate. That gives the lead over to Adrian Fernandez, followed by Michael Andretti and Tony Kanaan. What's the situation on Adrian, Jan?
We will see Adrian in here on pit road in about 4 laps. So he is on a similar fuel strategy to what we saw for Castroneves. And of course, when you have the lead and you have clear track, you know you're going to pit soon. This is when the laps really count.
So Fernandez to the lead. Michael Andretti with a brilliant drive today, sits in second place right now. He's on exactly the same fuel strategy as Fernandez, and for that matter, everybody down through 6th place, Alex Zanardi. And after that, then it gets interesting. Castroneves came out into 7th place, but of course he now has enough fuel to make it to the end. His teammate, along with Tagliani, Gil de Ferran, Tagliani, they all stopped some time ago, but they should be able to make it to the end of the race right now. Tag is sitting in 11th, de Ferran is 12th, and Junqueira is 13th. The last pit stop.
And there's a
for
problem.
The
Castroneves, I think, just had an engine problem coming past the pits, Paul. His day may be over.
They've been reporting that the engine is noisy in the last lap. We'll see what's happening with Helio Castroneves. Yeah, he's definitely over. Blue at the back of the car.
Get to a safe place, Elio. Are we done? Not done, but keep coming. Keep coming around. Coming.
He's done.
You had an explosion. Keep going. Keep going if you can.
Whoa. Flame and everything now kicking out of the back of that car.
Get in a safe place, Elio. Get in a safe place.
Another person, we just had a radio report, Brian Herta, may also be losing power. Expect to see him on pit road, as well as Adrian Fernandez.
Back there. Go ahead and park it. So somebody
But he's
put it
okay.
out. Get to a safety. Drivers left at 8. Drivers left at 8.
And he's got some fire there. They're going to need a corner crew on top of that. A little of the body work on the left side of the car. Some blowback oil has apparently caught fire.
Get out, Elio.
They're waving yellow flag right there.
Yeah, they're going to blow
And they're saying, come on, Elio, get out of there.
They wave that hard enough, they'll get the fire out.
They may just have done that. Kenny Breck, quick off course, climbs out of the car. Gary, what happened there?
Kenny, what was the problem with your car?
Well, I'm not sure, but cockpit filled with smoke, and then it had a misfire, and then it died. So I suspected it was an electrical shortcut of some sort, because the battery, all the instrumentation, everything went blank too. So
I know you're concerned about championship points, but now we get word that Castroneves is out. That helps you.
Yeah, it seems like no one wants to win this championship.
All right, Jan.
Adrian Fernandez may have caught a big break here. They've gone full course yellow, but he got into pit road. It all depends how quick can he get out of here. No changes. He wants all the fuel. Oh, he stalled it. Unbelievable. Oh, it was his race to win. This could be it, folks. Oh, they're trying to get the starter in the back. They already had it over the wall, but they can't get it engaged. Here comes the rest of the cars, and there went, Adrian Fernandez, a crushing blow.
Well, of that group, Kanan led the group out. Finally, Fernandez gets it fired. And here is the rest of what essentially is the front of the field, with a very impatient Gil de Ferran coming out behind Max Pappas. This all happening on the 69th lap of the race, scheduled for 95 laps. So the full course caution as Helio Castroneves has an engine go. And it'll be real interesting to see now how it plays out. There's a lot of head scratching going on. We're trying to figure out a lot of things. First of all, Michael Andretti is in the lead. He's in the lead because the team brought Tony Kanaan in and gave him a splash and go, trying to get him set to go. And then there was the story of Gil de Ferran. For some reason, the Penske team stopped him. Gary, the question is why?
Well, Roger Penske is in a deep conversation with his crew and has been talking with his driver, Gil de Ferran. I asked him if we could get a word, and he said, we're trying to plot his fuel mileage right now. Now he's called one of the CART officials over for a conversation here on pit wall, and I'm not certain what this is all about. But yeah, head scratching really sums it up here, and if we get an opportunity, we're going to try to duck in here, and maybe Roger can clarify this scenario for us. Right now, he's still on the radio. You see that left hand on the earpiece? That's pushing the button where he's talking to Gil de Ferran as the field comes through turn 11, and I believe they're looking for green.
The pace picks up with Michael Andretti at the front. Tagliani sensing up trouble way back in the field. And it's Memo Gidley. So that's going to keep us under the full course caution again for sure. Gidley was 16th. He's rolled to a stop right by the start-finish line, and they've just put out the flags for the full course caution. So whatever the result of that will have to be reversed. Brian Herta out of the race as well. What about Roger Penske, though, Gary?
Well, with this additional full course yellow, Roger, tell us now, you pulled Gil in when you gave up the track position when you had the lead. Obviously, you must have thought then that you were going to gamble and had a shot at winning. What has changed? You brought him back in.
Well, I wanted to top him off for sure. I probably didn't do the right thing bringing him in there, but, you know, we didn't have a long chance of time to make the call, and we did it. So to see what happens here, it's one of those days.
Well, I guess that pretty much sums it up from a man who's been through all kinds of experiences over the years, Paul.
That's about as straightforward as you can get from Roger. Here is Gidley as they were coming back to the green, got it over into the wall. Severe damage to the right front, rolled to a stop. That brought out the full course caution again. Green flew for about 11 seconds there. Now, we mentioned Brian Herta and his problems that took him out of the day. Jan Beekes?
Yes, he came right in about the same time as Adrian Fernandez. We had a report that there was an engine problem for you. Was that the case?
Yeah. Start tightening up there, you know, about halfway through the second stint, and we were able to hang on, and then start cutting out and getting worse and worse. And by the end, it was about, they saw on the date it was about to go, so they called me in. You know, if it wasn't for bad luck this year, we wouldn't have too much at all. But you know, we had a good car and had a good time while we were out there. Look forward to Michigan next week.
And he ran as high as 5th place. Bitter disappointment. Thank you, Brian.
And while we were talking to Brian, you saw Gidley climb over the pit wall and now walks back, put on the civilian clothes. Another disappointing day after that great run into second place at Cleveland. You'll still see a lot more from him, and we'll be back. Sad moment for Memo Gidley, and already he's walked over to the area Jan Beekes normally covers.
Yes, because that wall is not far from us here. Memo, what put you into it?
Well, just on restarts, you know, you're trying as hard as you can and pick up a little rubber on the tires. and just carried a little too much speed in the last turn and just understeered into the wall.
Prior to that, how was the car?
It was good. You know, I mean, we were just like chipping our way up there, and Team Target gave me a great car. The guys in the pit stops, you know, got me out quick, and we were just working our way ahead. It's just a shame I couldn't have gone to the end.
Now, I know you're happy here. I assume Chip is happy as well, but is it still this crazy race-to-race deal for you?
Well, I haven't seen Chip yet, so, you know, we'll see. I mean, you do everything you can out there, and this is how you end up. And, you know, I didn't intentionally crash into the wall, but, you know, you got to try all the time. You got to be on all the time, and I was trying.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, they've just gotten his car off of the course. Andretti, Tagliani, Junqueira. Gary Gerald.
Quick word with Kim Green. Kim, an amazing turn of events for you here today. So what are your concerns now that you've turned this totally around from last to first?
Well, certainly making it to the end, 19 laps to go. Certainly Michael knows this place. I'm pretty confident if we hold together and keep concentrating, we can win this one. It'll be a fantastic run from the back.
Boy, what a story. If you talk about him possibly winning his 7th, all the great days he's had in Toronto, this might be the greatest of all.
Well, it sure seems as they are ready to come back to the flag. You look down at the Honda Helicam view. Michael certainly is carrying enough fuel to make it to the finish. The question becomes Tagliani and Junqueira sitting right behind him. Junqueira closes on the back of Tagliani. This is Gugelmin. Today's pictures provided for us by Molstar of Canada. We thank our colleagues for the coverage.
You see teammates Gugelmin and Dixon looking racy coming down into turn 3. He's trying to outbreak him on the outside here. He's watched Michael do it several times.
Well, they get away with it.
And on that restart,
no.
These
guys didn't. And one of them's De Ferran. De Ferran, Jourdain Jr., and Kanaan. And the right rear is just gone on that one. Maybe he can make it back, but it's going to do a lot of damage. Jan Bikas, what about Kanaan?
You were asking, Paul, why on earth would they pit him out of the lead to take fuel? It turns out they had a problem with the fuel nozzle on the previous stop. So that's why they did not have enough fuel to make it the distance.
Now, well, that explains it then, because it was a surprise to see him suddenly back in the pits. Jourdain Jr.
And once again, championship implications, Paul. Gil de Ferran currently 4th in the championship now.
Well, everything in the top 10 of the championship is changing. It's just the entire point scheme coming into this is, for the most part, right out the window now.
Cristiano Damata out of the car. And you have to consider, Paul, if they hadn't have pitted, we could see the contact between Max Pappas, De Ferran, and then De Ferran over the top of Cristiano Damata, who simply has just been in the wrong place so many times this year, an innocent bystander, once again a victim. But you have to consider if Penske hadn't pitted De Ferran when he did, that he would have been in that position in the first place.
Gary, that doesn't look too repairable.
No, he shuts the engine off as he gets in here now, and already has unbuckled the steering wheel. Everything is skew at the right, on the right front end, the right rear, and the day is over for Gil de Ferran.
So De Ferran, who had such a great run from the pole in the early going, climbs out. His teammate is already out. An interesting list of people who are out of this race and had a tremendous effect overall on the championship. But here's the way they're lined up right now. 77 of 95 laps complete. Well, we're back just as the green flag comes out for Michael Andretti. They're racing again, 95 laps, the scheduled distance. That's 15 laps away. You ride with Bruno Junqueira, now further with Adrian Fernandez, who runs in 5th place. Junqueira's up in 3rd now, but here's part of this whole game. Andretti leads it. Behind him, Tagliani and Junqueira are 29 laps. Boy, look at Fernandez. But Junqueira and Tagliani are on full conserve. They have to be careful because to finish the race, they're going to have to run the tank totally dry to get there. It's going to be really interesting.
Zanardi shoving his way past Gugelmin there. And, Paul, they'll be able to make it if we have more yellows, but I'm afraid we're running out of cars to have incidents with for the yellows. You can see these guys realize it may go green to the end, and look how hard they're pushing now. As Zanardi passed Dixon, Gugelmin almost into the back of his teammate.
13 cars actually running in competition with Andretti at the front.
Now watch Fernandez try to set up Junqueira coming onto the pit straight. Junqueira all the way up from 20th place. But Fernandez unable to get close enough under braking. He'll make another attempt now at the end of this long back straightaway.
Just a couple of cars back in 6th place is Alex Zanardi having a great day after a fairly devastating qualifying. Here comes Fernandez. Fernandez is on the outside. They both slam down on the brakes. Whoa!
We saw the right front wing end plate get hit there on the way through. Oh,
yeah.
A little bit of a wave.
What are you doing? Says Adrian Fernandez. Now he's got Fittipaldi and Zanardi right behind him, working him. He gave away a little too much trying to get around Junqueira.
And watch Zanardi. He's been looking down the inside of Fittipaldi. He'll try it again going down inside turn 8. Whoa, big slide from Zanardi. Here's now Fernandez once again on the outside. Watch for the contact right there. You can see the parts come off the front of the car.
And Zanardi stepped out there just to get a look and see whether or not he could get through. Now here comes Fernandez again.
It's the dive bomb maneuver we saw earlier, and it works as Bruno locks him up. Zanardi now slots in behind.
Boy, look at him fight behind Junqueira now. Zanardi going for Fittipaldi. Dixon watching them both.
Ooh, he's deep. That's 2 cars deep. Zanardi outstanding under braking.
That was terrific.
He went a full, whoa, and now he's down the inside of Bruno, we think. He went 2 car lengths deeper than anyone else in that train and pulled off the pass. And he did get Junqueira.
So now Fernandez in 3rd place has to worry about Zanardi.
Well, this is a drive that reminds me of Zanardi from Long Beach a few years ago when he fell nearly a lap down to Gil de Ferran, came through the entire field and won the race with a bent left front suspension. Zanardi absolutely on fire.
Through turn 1 again. Zanardi working on Fernandez. Battles for 3rd.
2 Honda-powered Renards now.
Jan Vikas.
Just
Zanardi is looking like the Zanardi of
old.
old.
Oh, yeah. Just check with Morris Nunn. I said, how's the fuel situation? He said, no problem. We have plenty.
Yeah, the one in the top of the field that you got to wonder about is 2nd place Alex Tagliani. Now 32 laps out since a refuel.
What he needs, the radio conversation, he has to get 2 miles per gallon to make it for Tagliani.
Oh, that's going to be tough. He's got Andretti 6.5 seconds in front of him. Fernandez is just 2 seconds behind him.
These guys, both Fernandez and Zanardi, have plenty of fuel to get to the end. They get down in the 1.8, even 1.75 range. It's going to give them a significant amount more horsepower than Tag. And right now, they've gained about a half a second on Tagliani, who's now 7.2 seconds behind Michael Andretti.
Pole sitter, early leader, Gil de Ferran is out. You saw him go out. Gary Gerald, what are they saying on the Penske pit?
Well, this is one of those unusual instances where the frustration of a season that has not been the brightest for the defending champion de Ferran. For a rare instance, he declined an opportunity to talk after he got out of the car. He headed straight for the paddock and the transporter area. I think he's extremely frustrated, that's my opinion, over some race strategy that backfired. You heard Roger Penske say, in hindsight, they probably made the wrong decision.
Well, Parker was thinking it over, and, you know, they brought him in. They were surprised. Parker was astonished they brought him in. And as you pointed out, they put him in the position that got him in trouble.
Well, when you split your team like that, when you keep Castroneves out and de Ferran in, you don't put the other teammate back on the original strategy. That's just not normally how you play the game. And that may have led to that accident because he wouldn't have been in that position in the first place.
Well, Michael Andretti with a clear course ahead, unchallenged by Tagliani. Tagliani having to worry about his fuel supply. He's 7.5 seconds back.
Today's coverage of the Molson Indy from Toronto, Ontario, Canada has been brought to you by Molson Canadian, open for adventure. And by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. Back at the Molson Indy, we're with you all the way to the checkered flag now. Michael Andretti leads it. We're in the closing stages of the race. Tagliani is in second. You got to wonder how much fuel is in his tank. Oh, Fittipaldi and Junqueira, they've been battling, literally hammering at each other, and now they're into the barriers. That should bring out the full course caution again.
A little applause from Fittipaldi to Junqueira.
And you just mentioned Tagliani. You know what that means for him. That means he'll have enough fuel, and maybe he can make a run at Andretti after all.
And you remember at Milwaukee, it was the same sort of applause for Junqueira in a similar situation.
I feel there's a certain amount of sarcasm in those accolades.
As a cynic, you do become that as you get on in the race. Well, the full course caution comes out, which is going to put us pretty close to a window on a timed race. And we've just gotten word that just before the yellow came out, the officials said that they will go the distance of the race. They can't change that now. So, Parker?
Well, let's see how we did our synchronized parking routine here. Fittipaldi coming up down the long pit straight, goes to the outside. And now we wait to see what happens from this camera angle. Oh, here it is. It's very interesting. Certainly not room for two cars if you can't get one car through there successfully.
Well, the full course caution is out because of this incident. Junqueira and Fittipaldi. So Michael Andretti hoping to run for the finish. Tagliani, well, they think that he can run with him now. Tagliani in second. They go for the first turn. Zanardi looks inside of Fernandez. Puff of smoke there. Didn't seem to be the leaders.
Now it looked like Fernandez just locking up the tires on the way into the corner. Michael with a great restart. Zanardi trying to take advantage of Fernandez on that restart. And Adrian holding him off.
No change through the first turn. Zanardi looks inside. Fernandez sweeps wide across him. Kanaan closes just a bit on Gugelman.
Saw it again there. Puff of smoke heading into turn 5.
And Tagliani is staying with Michael Andretti. They're pulling away from Fernandez.
Michael got an advantage, obviously, on the start about the first half of the lap, and now Tag's starting to come back. Michael looks a little better through the S's. Tagliani a little better on the 5 through 8 section of the course.
Tagliani now 40 laps since his last stop. I guess if I'm Jerry Forsyth and I own that car, I just say pedal to the metal at this point. We'd rather win it than if we don't. Look at this. Look at this. What's going on here? Bruno coming out of the pits and joined right with Tagliani, and that certainly gave Tagliani some hesitation.
Hey, Adrian's all over you. Protect the inside. Do what you got to do, buddy.
That's the spotter down in turn 3, and that's just what Michael needed, was to have these guys disrupted, have them fight, distract them from him, so that he could just concentrate on getting away. While Fernandez and Tagliani battle for second place.
Fernandez in pursuit of Tagliani. Oh, that cost Tagliani a great deal. It may have cost him the race. Jan Bikas.
Keep in mind, for Alex Tagliani, we're in Canada. He's driving for Players. Players has never won a race in Canada. The fans are absolutely trying to cheer him on for all he's worth.
Yeah, but when they saw that in the Andretti pits, they were cheering for Michael because they knew it gave him an enormous opportunity.
Well, he went from a 0.8 second lead to 3.4 seconds, so a huge advantage gain because of the disruption of Bruno Junqueira coming out of the pits. And now these drivers, you've got Tagliani there locking up the brakes into turn 3. He's primarily focused on trying to defend his position from Fernandez. Fernandez is watching Zanardi behind him. And in the meantime, Michael has just checked out and disappeared.
And not to forget, as you look down in the rundown, Zanardi, Dixon, Tracy, they're there, 4th, 5th, and 6th. All of them having, comparatively, a very good day. Zanardi especially.
Zanardi certainly has had an uneventful day compared to everybody else in that list, trying to avoid the contact and the number of the incidents.
Remember, you have the overtake button. You have the overtake button.
That's basically
Good to go.
Basically just saying use whatever you've got left. Go to full power, full advance, full mixture.
Tagliani just cut a lap at 105 miles an hour. He's doing everything he can.
The only two drivers in the 105-mile-an-hour range, Michael Andretti, Alex Tagliani. Michael a tenth of a mile an hour quicker, pulled out another tenth of a second advantage.
Seconds. That's the interval from this car back to Tagliani. Zanardi working hard on Fernandez at the same time. There's Tag. Very intense young French-Canadians. One here in the Atlantic.
But for Michael Andretti, it's been a year since his last victory, which came here at Toronto. His first win with Team Green now, and the Motorola sponsorship.
White flag, white.
Clean into turn one for the leaders. Only two more opportunities, really, for Tagliani. The first one comes at turn 3.
Tag having a nice break now from Fernandez. Fernandez having to worry about Zanardi. This race isn't over yet. Michael finally being able to just breathe a little bit here, knowing he just has to drive cleanly, keep it on line.
Can you believe this? Starts 13th, falls all the way back to the back, comes all the way forward. We mentioned 13th as lucky. It sure looks like it's going to be for Michael Andretti. Looking for his 41st career win. The checkered flag's out. 7th win at Toronto. First win this year for Michael Andretti. And the 14th year that Michael Andretti has scored a victory in his Kart FedEx Championship career. Michael Andretti and Team Green has done it, and it seemed like such an impossible feat. But still, good run, too, for Alex Tagliani. And for that matter, the top 10, they stayed in there. They fought a very tough battle. Michael Andretti has just crawled out of his car 7 times a winner in the Molson Indy, and there's the unofficial results. Michael Andretti pulls off the helmet. Great run for Tagliani and Fernandez as well. Gary?
We called him yesterday the King of Toronto. There's another coronation about to take place. Michael, in all of the success here, I want to know, when you went and had that contact in the first lap with Dixon, did you, in your wildest imagination, think you could win number 7?
No, I didn't. I thought I was going to go a lap down, and the safety guys did a tremendous job getting me going there, so I didn't lose a lap. And I just got to thank the whole Team Motorola team. They did an awesome job. Archipelago, the Honda engine, perfect. What a beautiful engine to drive here, and the Firestones ran perfect as well.
And in the championship hunt, you jumped to number 2, I'm told. That's maybe the best news of the day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't know that. This just was an unbelievable day. Dream.
We congratulate you again.
Thank you.